2020 CR693, captioned State of Kansas versus Kristen Parscal. Would the parties announce their appearances, please?
May it please the court, Candace Alvarez appears on behalf of the state.
Hey, please the court, Kristen Parscal appears in person in custody, and by counsel Zach Anthony, all via the Zoom platform.
All right, Ms. Parscal, we're here set down for a plea hearing today. To accept your plea, I need to ask you a bunch of questions, okay? If I ask you something and you don't understand, you need to tell me that, and we can talk about it until we're both sure we're on the same page, okay? If anytime I ask you a question and you think you'd like to talk to Mr. Anthony in private before answering that question, you just tell me that. I have the ability to send you guys to a separate room where you can talk without us hearing you, okay? All right. Now, to start this, I need to swear you in. So if you would raise your right hand, my court reporter will swear you in.
You solemnly swear the testimony about the given the cause now in hearing be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes.
Miss Parscal, how far did you go in school?
I graduated high school and I went to college for a couple of years, but I never graduated.
All right. I assume you can read and write okay?
Yes.
I know you're in custody, but as you sit here today, are you under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or prescription medicine that might cloud your mind, keep you from understanding what you're doing?
No.
All right. Feel like your mind's clear today?
Yes.
Do you know what you're charged with?
Yes.
You understand that you don't have to change your plea from not guilty to guilty. If you wanted to maintain your not guilty plea, you would have an absolute right to a jury trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
At that trial, the state would have to put on enough evidence to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You wouldn't have to prove anything yourself. Mr. Anthony would assist you throughout that trial. He would confront and cross-examine all of the state's witnesses, challenge their evidence. If there were witnesses you wanted called, he could call them. And if they didn't want to come to court, he could use subpoena power to make them come to court. At that trial, you would have a right to testify, but you'd also have a right not to testify. And if you decided not to testify, the state couldn't use that against you to argue you must be guilty for not taking the stand. Do you understand all that?
Yes.
Now, if we had that whole trial, at the end of that trial, you were found guilty, you would have a right to appeal that conviction to the appellate courts. If you didn't have the money to do that, a lawyer would be appointed to do it for you. You understand that?
Yes.
And finally, if you enter this plea today, you're going to be giving up all of those rights. There's not going to be a trial of any kind to either a court or a jury. You understand that?
Yes.
I'm going to share with you now what I received from Mr. Anthony purporting to be your plea petition. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
You go down to the third page here and see there's a signature, an electronic signature on there. Did you either place that on there or give Mr. Anthony permission to place it for you?
Yes.
All right. Now I'm going back up to the part that lists the plea petition. Or I'm sorry, the plea agreement. It says that you're going to be pleading guilty to count 1, which is possession of methamphetamine. The other counts are going to get dismissed. The parties will agree to jointly recommend the standard term consecutive to this other case, 2017 CR688, and to recommend probation to be supervised by drug court. Is that your understanding of the entire plea agreement?
Yes.
Has anybody promised you anything else to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Anybody placed any force or threats against you to make you plead guilty today?
No.
I see part of this plea agreement is an agreement to recommend a particular sentence. You understand, I'm going to listen closely at sentencing to everybody's recommendations, but I'm not a party to or bound by those recommendations, and I can give you any sentence that the law allows. You understand that?
Yes.
Ms. Alcaraz, Mr. Anthony, do you have an expectation of what Ms. Parscal's criminal history score will be?
Judge, I think she'll be a G.
Judge, I think that's correct. She could potentially be a G or an F, but she will be soundly presumptive probation, but for special rule.
All right. So I'm sure Mr. Anthony went over that sentencing grid with you where he take the level of the charge and where they expect your criminal history to be and what kind of sentence you can expect. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you understand that if there's something in your criminal history that the lawyers don't know about that makes your criminal history score higher, you could be subject to a sentence higher than you and Mr. Anthony discussed. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. Given that, what I have to do until I receive your official criminal history score is just assume that it's the very worst possible criminal history so that I can advise you what the maximum sentence that anybody could get for this crime is. You understand that?
Yes.
All right. And I rolled up to it here on the plea petition. The maximum for this crime is 42 months in prison and a fine of $100,000 with a post-release supervision duration of 12 months. Do you understand that that's the maximum anyone could get for this charge?
Yes.
After having gone over all of this, do you have any questions for either me or Mr. Anthony at this time regarding anything we talked about?
No.
All right. And Mr. Anthony, do you know any reason why your client should not plead?
I do not, Judge.
Then, Ms. Parscal, I will ask you, as to count one of the information charging you with possession of methamphetamine, a severity level 5 non-person drug felony, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
All right. I'm going to ask the state to tell me what they think the evidence in this case would be. I want you to listen closely because when they're done, I'm going to ask you if that's what happened. Ms. Alcaraz.
Yes, Judge. I hate to kind of backtrack, but did we do the preliminary hearing waiver?
Oh, there hasn't been one yet. All
No.
right, let's do that before I accept the plea. Mr. Anthony, on behalf of your client, you waive preliminary hearing.
I do, Judge. We understand we have that right. Would waive it at this time so we can go forward with the plea.
Is that correct, Ms. Parscal?
Yes.
State.
Yes, Judge.
All right, I'll find both parties waive preliminary hearing, buying the defendant over for trial. We'll forego a formal reading and proceed with this plea hearing. Ms. Alcaraz, factual basis, please.
Yes, Judge. State's evidence would be that on September 22nd of 2020, the defendant present here today via Zoom was a passenger in a vehicle that was pulled over for not having a license plate displayed on the rear of a trailer. The traffic stop took place in the 9700th block of K32 Highway, Edwardsville, Wyandotte County, Kansas. The officers did a records check on both the driver and the passenger. They discovered that the defendant, who was the passenger, had 2 active warrants. While working on a ticket for the driver, a K9 unit arrived on the scene and did a sniff around the vehicle and it alerted. Officers then searched the vehicle and found a large handbag between the front seats in the center console. There were 2 baggies of a crystallized substance found within the bag. They were field tested by Officer Gold and presumptively tested positive for the presence of methamphetamine. When officers asked who the bag belonged to, the defendant identified the bag as belonging to her.
All right, Ms. Parscal, is that what happened in this case?
Yes.
All right. I will find the defendant has freely, voluntarily, and intelligently entered into her plea. She understands the nature of the charges and consequences of the plea. There is a factual basis for a finding of guilt, and I will in fact find that she is guilty of count 1, possession of methamphetamine, a severity level 5, non-person drug felony. Other charges are dismissed per plea agreement. I will order a pre-sentence investigation be conducted, and we will set this sentencing for December 18th at 11 a.m. Mr. Anthony, you're going to get a referral over on the other cases over to drug court.
Judge, I'm typing that up as we speak now that this plea is official. So
All
yes,
right.
it will happen today.
All right. And as well as, do you have a PSI request document there in front of you?
I don't, Judge. Honestly, I didn't think to do it. I should have.
Okay.
I will get one. I think you guys maybe have a digital that you can send us.
I have one I can email you, yes.
Okay. If you do that, I'll fill it out and send it back.
Okay, yeah, you can send it back to me and I'll get it over to probation office.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you, Judge. I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
That's okay. Other things for our record. Oh, I'm sorry. As a convicted felon, Ms. Parscal, it's prohibited for you to own or possess a firearm. Certain kind of deadly cutting instruments like dirks, daggers, switchblades, things such as that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anything else for our record today?
Not from the state, Judge.
Nothing from us.
We are adjourned. Good luck, Ms. Parscal. We'll see you in December.
Thank you.